The Bulls are undoubtedly going to have a handful of options there at number 12 for them. The question that we want to talk about today is, should the Bulls go best player available regardless of position, or should they focus at a position of need, which seems to be the center or the power forward position? We're going to talk about it all and more on today's Chicago Bulls Central.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, hosted by Hayes, your number one spot for all things Chicago Bulls.
What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host, Derek Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content today, y'all. And we're here to talk about a simple topic. We do have a guest is going to be coming on the show here in a second. I'm not going to tell y'all who it is. It's going to be a little bit of a surprise, but we do have a guest coming on. But the topic that we want to discuss today is what the Bulls' methodology, their thought process, what should it be going into the draft? There's a couple of players that don't necessarily fit with the position-wise on paper that have tremendous upside in this draft, or should they focus at the best player at the position of need? And it's a lot of different ways to think about this. A lot of different people have different thoughts on it. And you know, and I think there's a level of validity to it, regardless of how you look at it, right? One thing, the Bulls don't have a star yet. For those that think that Coby White's a star, he's not yet. Those that think that Josh Giddey's a star, he's not yet. Those that really think Modest Buzelis is already a star, he's not that yet either. Right now, we hope that some of those guys, or one, or if not a couple of those guys, are going to be able to ascend to that level. But until the Bulls have a star, there is a common thought by some fans that you always draft the best player available, and you figure it out at that point in time who's going to bring it. Now, I have also the thought process that if you keep drafting at the same position and looking for a star just because you have that player listed as best available, you could end up not getting the best out of any player. For example, the Bulls have Josh Giddey, they have Coby. You already have two guards that are ball dominant. If you were to draft another ball dominant guard, where does that leave you, right? Because you already had to spend the majority of one season in 2024-25 for Giddey and Coby to kind of figure out their balance, right? But for those that do look at like a player and they see, and I'm not saying that anybody does, but let's say you look at Tre Johnson as a legitimate star level caliber player in this league, do you avoid taking him if he falls there to you at 12 to then go center, right? And that's what we want to have here today as far as talking about it. And listen, there's a lot of different things and a lot of different avenues because let's say this. What if you have a player that's best player available? Let's say the best player, the best center that's on the board when the Bulls draft at 12 doesn't fit the offense, doesn't fit the team, doesn't fit the style of play, doesn't bring what you need. Now, I don't think that's going to happen. I think there's more than enough players that fit that mold in this draft. But then what would be the point of taking a center if that center you already know by picking them does not fit what you do, right? So that's kind of the thought process of it. But at the same time, I'd say this, you don't want to focus so much on need that you miss a star because as much as people are going to say, and I already know there are going to be some people in comments that say, well, Hayes, the Bulls need a defensive center. And it's like, great, yeah, cool. Let's get that defensive center, no problem. But what if you end up leaving a player on the board and then there'll be the same person that's saying in 2 years, if you leave a Cedric Coward on the board and you draft your defensive center in Asa Newell and Coward turns into an all-star, they'll be there sitting,
oh my God, AK got it wrong again. We should have drafted Cedric Coward. Oh no.
That's what they would do. That's literally what would happen if that happens. So you have to walk a thin line here, right? Because, yeah, we know what the Bulls need. The Bulls do need a defensive center. The Bulls absolutely need a center that can be switchable, that can guard the rim, those type of things. But when you're drafting at 12, what if you see that player that's there that isn't a center, but you legitimately see them as having superstar level talent? Are you going to turn that down just to get a position? Because I'll tell you what, your position of need changes if you get a star. I'm just saying. Let's say you go out and and again, I'm not here just to push Cedric Coward. I know he's in the graphic, but if Cedric Coward does end up turning into a two-way star in this league, Maybe in 2 years, what you need at center changes a little bit. Maybe you could focus a little bit more on the offensive center, right? So the only time where I think position of need is the only thing you possibly look at is when you're so sure of the base that you have in your team that you feel like that's what's going to get you to where you need to go to. And maybe you are. And AK very well may be at that place already. He may already be at that place where he looks at this team and he says, nope, center by any means necessary, and I feel we're a playoff team. And if that's the case, great, right? Again, I'm not here to say that one way of thinking is right more than one way of thinking is another. I'm just here to talk about both sides of the conversation and the argument. It's not as simple as what some people do, especially because guess what? Y'all know I keep receipts. Some of y'all be complaining one way or another. And so I know for a fact, right? I don't even know if he's in here yet, but I guarantee you Winton, I guarantee you Eco Bean, I guarantee you Brazil Popular, I guarantee you Rob. I guarantee you those 4 people, if the Bulls draft a center and Tre Johnson's on the board, and in 2 years, Tre Johnson is a star shooting guard, averaging 26 points in the league, I guarantee you those 4 people would be saying, we got to get AK fired. There goes. You can't trust AK.
Anything AK does is going to lead to oh my God, we missed again. This is Patrick Williams all over again. How can we do this again? This is why you don't trust this front office.
That is literally what I know for a fact, because those are people that have been on this channel for years, would say if the Bulls draft Asa Newell and Tre Johnson, Cedric Coward, or I don't even know who else to mention at this point, Igor Dimon turn into a star. They would literally be sitting there like,
remember Tyrese Halliburton? Oh no, we did it again. We did it all over again.
But then on the flip side of that, let's say you do pass on the Cedric Coward. Let's say you do pass on the Igor Dimon. Let's say you do pass on the Tre Johnson, and you get the center that you need here on this team, and then all of a sudden this team is contending for a top 6 seed. And then let's say you build off of that. And then in 2 or 3 years, maybe Cedric Coward somewhere averaging 26 points per game, but the Bulls over those last 3 years have been going on playoff runs, playoff battles, and Cedric Coward somewhere averaging 26 points per game, but hasn't gotten anywhere. Right, so it's not as simple and straightforward as some people make it out to be, and I think that's the complexity that can be in these conversations and in these decisions that you only will ever know for sure in hindsight. You never will have 100% answer on it in the midst of it. You can only try to judge off what the potential there is in a player, how you see them developing, and what you see them bringing to your team, right? But while we're waiting on our guests, let's get into some of your guys' comments and see how you guys are feeling. We hear what's going on, Jerry. Tony Tsunami's in the building, says, what's good, Hayes? What's good, fam? Greetings from Costa Rica, pure life. Let's go. Listen, I wish I was in Costa Rica right now, bro. Eric says, best player available. Definitely understand that. Definitely. Like I said, I'm not here to say one way is right or wrong. It's a conversation. I say go for a position of me, because you already have your 3 main core guys already, and when you look at who we need to draft, though they are people leading. First of all, go position of me. You want to draft somebody? Never mind. That's a joke. I know you won't get offended, but that's a joke I'll make. I'll text you later, Shay. Shay's my little brother. I make some off-color jokes to Shay. But no, you probably meant position of need. But here's the thing, though. We don't have our core locked in. We don't know if Josh Giddey's going to re-sign here for sure. We don't know if Coby White's going to be here after next season. We don't know if Ayo Dosunmu's going to be here next season. We don't know those things for sure. And some of that is out of our control, right? So I think that's another aspect that you got to think about it on, right? I say we go best true center prospect, not power forward with center capabilities. Well, here's the thing. That is still a center in the modern NBA. If you're talking about a true center, the only true center in this draft is Kaman Malawak. If you're judging off true center, that's just not a thing in the NBA anymore. One of the better centers in the league is Jared Allen. He isn't a true center, right? He's 6'9" with a 7'4" wingspan. So I don't think that it's all about like that position. That true position stuff is all but gone, really. Oh, we can trade to get Ace. I know Paul George's contract is bad, but Giddey, Ace, and Modest trio would be fire. I don't know, because who's defending anything at that point in time? And we're not getting Ace. I can tell you that right now. It's not going to happen. That's a rumor. It's not going to happen. I think potential need for sure. They have a lot of guards already, so power forward or center. But then if you get power forward, that kind of forces Modest to small forward. I don't know if he's ready for that yet. Cedric Howard, Rasheer Fleming, or Sorber seem like the right move. Maybe Derik Queen if he falls. Hey, listen, and again, I'm not here to disagree with any of you guys. I agree with you on that one. Someone who can really get active on the boards and stretch when needed, but really can defend the paint heavy. I'll take the defense and scoring. He can work on shooting. Who are you talking about? You talking about Asa there? Or you just talking about generally? The Bulls desperately need to draft a defensive center. Yeah, for sure. If we get the best player we have to trade one of our guys, I mean, you don't have to do it right away, right? Unless we are convinced Giddey and Buzelis can be the duo for the future, go best player available. I understand where you're coming from for sure on that, Vikram. They're going to complain no matter what because apparently every Bulls fan is the best scout on earth. That's a great point as well. Great point. Jerry says true. We got Eric Fleming says 100. I agree. They should draft best player available. And again, I'm not here to say that one way is the right way or not. I'm just not here to say that, right? It's just I want to have a multi-layered conversation, especially until our guest gets here. There may be 4 to 6 solid guys there at 12 to choose from. Who do we take? The best fit next to Modest and Giddey or whoever else is here, bottom line. Okay, that's fit. Definitely fair. Definitely fair. Sounds like Stephen A. Smith with that voice. That is hilarious. Is that who I sound like with that voice? That's crazy. Uh-oh. Okay. Have to go best player available. Every position is a position of need until there's a number one guy on the roster. And Tim, that's a very fair way to look at it, I feel like. Like, very, very fair. The voice changes his own point. My stance is we should draft for position of need, and that position is center. And would not make sense to draft a guard even if the guard is best player available because we already have good guards. Yeah, but it's not finding good guards. It's not about finding good guards. It's about finding a great one, right? A great one. If you think that one could be great, and I'm not saying that I necessarily do. I'm saying that in the evaluation, if you told me, right, for example, let me go here, right, and this is part of the conversation. When we drafted Derrick Rose, we didn't need a guard. We had Kurt Heinrich. We had Ben Gordon. We didn't need a guard at all. It would have made more sense to that version of the team to draft Mike Beasley. It would have made a lot more sense to that version of the team where it is to draft Michael Beasley. But what do? We went with the player that we felt had the most upside. What did that end up turning into? A superstar level MVP player. And imagine had we had focused on best player available rather than the best talent. Imagine that. And people now forget how close of a conversation that was. It wasn't that Derrick Rose was clear-cut the player that should have been drafted number one. There was a legitimate conversation and thought that Michael Beasley as a scorer, because of the KD comparisons, no, it wasn't. It was Carmelo Anthony comparisons, should have been that pick. I'm just saying, right? I'm just saying. So you have to think about it that way too. Like, think about this too. By us not going, part of the reason we didn't draft Tyrese Halliburton is because we already had Coby White on the team. Imagine had we said, all right, bet, no, we're going to draft Tyrese Halliburton, who we did bring in for a workout. People forget that. I'm just saying, like, it's not always that clear cut if you evaluate the talent correctly, which is a big if on this team. So think about that aspect. Think about how differently things would have gone had the Bulls went best player available and went position of need and drafted Michael Beasley instead of Derrick Rose. Now, I'm not saying any Derrick Rose is going to be there at 12. I'm just saying, though, if you truly see a player that you think can become a superstar, you take that player. Because just because you're going to pass on something that you see is great because you have something good, this ain't marriage, right? I just think that it's a more complex conversation to have there, personally. AK's best player available and every else's could be absolutely completely different. Y'all know AK be on some BS. And listen, that's why I did say you got to trust the evaluation that you come up with. Hayes, how to take the playoff appearance consistently, then take a player that's averaging 26 a game? Because remember, we had that in Zach LaVine, and it only got us one playoff appearance. Well, yeah, and that's why I said that's why it's not just focused on the points per game. It's also focused on if you think they can become a superstar or a star, right? Only a few superstars ever in the league at any one time, but if you think they can become a star. If only we knew the plan or all the data Acme is using to determine who fits best, and then we could argue the fit for their vision a little bit better. That's a fair statement, 100% fair statement. Fit can always be bought until we have the right players to build around. We need as much talent as possible. There's always players on the market to trade for and sign in the offseason. Agree with you there. Is it possible to trade up for Kaman Malawak? It's possible. We got Penn Snare in the building. Shout out to Penn. Says 12 is a solid spot for y'all. Agree. I think 12 is a really good spot to where we can really get what we need. I think that as well. Camille in the building says, do you still try to address center with the second round or wait till the next draft? Oh, no. I mean, you could still, just because you draft a player at the best, if you draft best player available, it doesn't necessarily stop you from still trying to go out and address that. Like you said, you do have a second round pick. We do have a trade exception of, I think we have a trade exception of $15 million. We have $19 million in cap space. We got a mid-level exception. So you still have avenues to try to add a defensive center if you want to, right? It just may not come in the draft. Now, we can draft best player available and trade Vooch for a package, including Lively, like Hayes mentioned some episodes ago. Lively fits with us. Well, I didn't specifically say Lively, and it was that was a different trade, but yeah, I get what you're coming from. I think some really decent future starters will go 11 to 20. 12 is your pick of the litter. Agree with you. 100% agree with you there. Yeah, the P. Will draft, they were taking a power forward. It was between Obi Toppin and Denny Advia and P. Will. Listen, and it looks like either one of those guys probably could have been a better choice, right? Should have kept LaMarcus Aldridge. If we kept LaMarcus Aldridge, we probably would have never got Derrick Rose, though. That team would have probably been too good to ever get Derrick Rose. I never like this coulda, woulda, shoulda scenarios. If we draft best player available and it's a guard, we need to make space for them in the rotation. Otherwise, we'll never see their full potential. Yeah, but they're not under Billy Donovan. They're not gonna. There's not like you're not gonna start day one anyway, right? And we did lose. We are gonna lose a guard in Tre Jones as well, who's part of the rotation. So you can work that in a little bit. But I definitely get what you're coming from. Hayes, knowing AK's stupid ass, he's probably going to look at Danny Wolf as the best player available because he's still resting off laurels of drafting Joker. I mean, I don't dislike Danny Wolf though. I don't think Danny Wolf is like some horrible player. I do think if you come up with him as the best player available, it's a little. I gotta question what went into that evaluation a little bit if that's the case. I do like the idea of going best player available at 12, then trading up with the Nets for 27 to get Behringer. Oh, I like Behringer more and more that I see him. I do think he is extremely raw, and I want to be clear. I think he still has high chance of being a bust just because he is so raw, and that's what I say about any player that's raw. Because when you're that raw, I think he's only been playing basketball like 3 years. When you're that raw, yeah, you can flash some things, but the refinement may never come. Right, so and again, no knock on Juan Behringer there at all. It's not to knock him, but I do think there's some concern there. If you trade back in with Brooklyn, because I think they have 21 and 23, if I'm not mistaken, maybe it's 23, 24. If you trade back into that, I do think you have a chance of like a Danny Wolf being there. I think there's a little chance of that. I think there's a chance Asa may slip there. So you take your pick. I do think that the Brooklyn Nets though could be a really good trade partner with the Chicago Bulls if they want to trade back into that first round, because they have 4 first-round picks. I don't know if they have any second-round picks, and I don't even think they're going to have that many roster spots open. I could be mistaken there, though. It's not like I'm intrinsically linked to the Brooklyn Nets roster like I am the Chicago Bulls roster, so there you go on that one. Resign Giddey, Coby for Kuminga, draft Coward. Re-sign Giddey, Coby for Kuminga? You mean sign and trade Giddey, Coby for Kuminga? You can't do that because only half of Kuminga's base salary will count towards salary matching in a trade like that. I do like the idea. Oh, I already read that one. My bad, Victim. Tony Tsunami says Obi was clearly the better prospect. The problem, P. Will was 19 and saw the upside of him, still growing to be better, but he was soft and just as peanut butter, and now he's just cold peanut butter. First of all, I don't think that there was that much difference. If you go and look, P. Will was rising up, not just the Bulls draft board, but mocks, experts, everything at that time. And P. Will didn't look soft at that time. P. Will wasn't soft then. He never really progressed, right? And that's part of the problem there. And that's why in your evaluation, you can't ignore the floor to just focus on the ceiling. I think that gets you in a very peculiar spot if you do that. Carter Bryant is the perfect wing for the Bulls. Hope he's not the perfect wing. I'm sorry, he's not. Carter Bryant, on unassisted attempts at the rim, he shoots 16%. And then even on assisted attempts at the rim, he's not shooting. His shot is not great at all. He can't create his own shot. He can't isolate. He's not really good at driving to the lane, so he's not even a slasher yet. Carter Bryant is not the perfect anything yet. Carter Bryant is a lot of potential, and there is a lot of potential that you can refine there. But to say that Carter Bryant's the perfect anything, he's not yet. He's just not. He's raw in just about every aspect of the game. Now, I do think that you've seen some things that point towards him being able to work a lot of that out, and that's great, but yeah, I don't know about that. Hayes, this is why we should have traded Lonzo Ball for the first-round pick. We probably could have moved up in this draft and probably could have got up to that 7th pick. I don't even think you should have. If we would have made that trade with Milwaukee, we would have had 12 and 18. I think you can get 2 starters for 12 and 18. So no, I don't even think you should 12 and now if you could trade into the top 4 or 5 maybe, but 7, I think that there's such a drop off after that area that it's all very, very similar at that point in time, personally. So I wouldn't have done that. So after the combine, I'm lost. Are Newell, Sorber, and Queen mocked outside the top 10 now? I think all 3 of them are right now. Personally, I think all 3 of them are right now. I could be wrong. I think so though. For the position of the Bulls are picking that year, whoever they took with the 4th would have been a stretch that early. Yeah, but sometimes you need to take a stretch. I mean, sometimes you do. I'm waiting on the guest now. Like he said he was setting up. See, this is why listen, and this joke, right? For anybody, I don't want anybody to get sensitive here. This is what I hate about black people, right? You tell a black person, hey, we're doing this at 5 o'clock. You know what they start doing? They start setting up at 5 o'clock. It's not just a black person thing. My dad does it. My dad's white as can be. So, it is what it is there. But, sometimes stereotypes are real. But let's see. Y'all star already on the rock. Modest is not a star yet. Sorry. Modest does not create his own shot. Everything's either at the rim or at the 3-point line. He has no mid-range game right now. His jump shot is too inconsistent. There's nothing to say that Modest is a star yet. There's some signs that he could be and could start trending that way, but Modest is way too raw to start operating as if he's going to be a star for sure. Way too raw in so many aspects of the game to say that. I get why everybody gets caught up in the hype of Modest, and you should, because he's the best rookie that we've had here in a while. I'm not saying don't get caught up in the hype of Modest, but to say that Modest Buzelis is a star yet, when you start objectively looking at the things that he does, turnovers are a problem, doesn't create his own shot, doesn't have the ability to play the small forward yet, even though that may be his best role. So there's a lot of issues going on with Modest, but I do think he has a chance to get there for sure. When is draft night, Hayes? Thanks for keeping us up with all. Thanks for keeping up with all of this for us. I haven't the patience. Listen, and then when you look at the fact that I do 30 episodes a week, 7 Chicago Bulls Central, 6 Chicago Bears Central, 5 Locked On Bulls, 5 Locked On NBA, 4 NBA Central. Shout out to the 6-Man Shenanigan podcast. 2 to 3 episodes of Chicago Sky Central a week. From the logo over on Player's Choice. I do about 30 episodes a week. Y'all keep up. That's not even counting breaking news episodes. It is what it is there. Hayes, if we get a chance to pick one of the players, who would you pick? Tre Johnson, Coward, or Wolf? Oh, well, Wolf, I think Coward and Tre Johnson have higher upsides than Danny Wolf. But man, if Tre Johnson falls to the Bulls, I think personally, I would have to take a hard consideration regardless of position. Tre Johnson offensively is almost the perfect match. Like when you look at catch and shoots, when you look at the ability to create his own shots, step backs, pin downs, he has so much advanced shooting mechanics that I just really like him. Really like him. Modest isn't a star yet, and it may take until year 3, but we will be one of the. I mean, listen, I hope and I do think that Modest has the type of work ethic. He has the type of mentality that if anybody's going to maximize on their potential, it's players like Modest Buzelis, right? But I'm just not at the point where some Bulls fans get where they want to crown people already because they were excited about their rookie season. That's just not where I am yet. So, it is what it is when it comes down to that. Our guest may not make it. I don't know what's going on. I texted him. He's not responding now. I don't know. How tall is Tre Johnson? Tre Johnson is 6'4", 5-ish, I think. Who the hell been fucking with my headphones? All right, we got our guest in the building. Hold on. Give me 1 second.
What's good, man?
I didn't know you was going to be on BPT, bro.
Hey, I was getting off work. Traffic was crazy.
I already know, especially with all those potholes out there. So
Nah, for real. They messing the whole road up. It's crazy.
But, so the conversation. We're talking about best player available, position of need. When you look at this draft at 12, which way do you think the Bulls should go?
I kept switching probably like 50 times throughout this process. I don't think I'm gonna switch again. Maybe 2 through 5 on my top 5. But I'm cool with Thomas Sorber. Like that's who I want the Bulls to get. I think he's a big body. He remind me of Bam out of bio sometimes with kind of like his length and his size that he has. That midi that he has with the jab step, and then he can pull up. Sometimes he got to get a little bit more consistent with it, but then also, down low in the post when he can, hit the spin moves or grab the rebounds, get putbacks, the 7'6" wingspan, all that stuff. So he's kind of become like my favorite prospect at 12. I mean, of course, if Kamal Maluak falls, I'd be cool with that, of course. Or Derik Queen, even though I don't think he's the best fit. I'd almost, like I said, I was almost thinking I might take Sorber over Queen, even though that might be crazy to some people just because of the defensive upside. But yeah. I mean, I got Rasheer Fleming on there, Carter Bryant, Asa Newell, Noah Sengwe, and then Cedric Howard is someone that's been rising up. I'm always worried about players like him a little bit though. When I hear like late risers, I'm always worried. When it comes to AK specifically, that's when I'm worried.
For sure. Is there any player that could fall? Like for me, it's Tre Johnson. Is there any player which is unlikely, but is there any player that could fall to where at number 12 you'll say, we'll find our center later down the road. Let's take this player right now.
Oh man. Tre Johnson, definitely. If that dude is there, I mean, because the way I'm viewing him, it's almost like Modest Buzelis from last year. I'm not even really expecting that. So if somebody like Tre Johnson did fall, definitely got to go after that. Any other players though that's not a center? I don't really know. Like I'm not big on Con Canupul is his name.
Oh yeah, Con.
Like he's good, but I'm just so stuck on getting a center for this team. But yeah, I mean Tre Johnson would probably be the one for me. Like if he fell, that'd be so unexpected where it's just like we gotta pick him. Like if you skip over him, that's an L in my opinion.
Yeah, I think so too. Like I look at Tre and it's like he initially was supposed to be right outside the top 4. Some even said that maybe if you're at 4, depending on where your team is, maybe you consider taking him at 4. Now some mocks have him going like 8 or 9th, and I'm just like, if something were to fall crazy and Tre Johnson falls there, I'm taking him. And I listen, we could address center in round 2. We could try to trade back into round 1. I'm taking Tre Johnson. I'm not worried about it at that point.
Yeah, no, I agree. In terms of wings that might be available, I love Carter Bryant. His statistics worried me a little bit, of course, especially with the Patrick Williams thing, when he came off the bench for college and stuff like that. But, Carter Bryant seems to have a little different mindset to me. I know he was talking about how he watches a lot of what's dude name from the Trailblazers? I forget his name.
Denny?
Nah, the defensive wing that they got. I I forget his name. I'm totally drawing a blank. But he said
Thibault?
he no, not Thibault, younger
You talking,
dude.
I don't know who you're talking about off the top of my head either now. Like I'm
I'm sure
throwing a blank
somebody. I'm
on
sure
it.
somebody will say it, but yeah, he said he takes a lot of his game from him defensively, and then he watches a lot of Devin Booker offensively. So his mindset seems to be a little bit different than Patrick Williams. So I wouldn't be mad at Carter Bryant or anything like that. But yeah, I mean Noah Osengwe, I said somebody that's kind of rising up on my draft board with the games that he's been putting together overseas. But yeah, man, I'm stuck on Thomas Sorber or Rasheer Fleming ultimately. I had a question though for you. So if Derik Queen did fall, I know everybody's first thought is like, yo, we have to get this player because this player was supposed to be top 6 and he fell to us, and it's the second year in a row, and this is just a blessing for us. But
Mhm.
is there something to say that you might not strike that gold twice, and there's a reason that players fall sometimes? Tumani Kamara, that's what I was talking about though. Tumani
Oh,
Kamara.
Tamani Kamara.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And a lot of people, we're in the Discord and they say things like, "Oh, if I'm fine taking whoever falls." They were supposed to, and it's like you don't want to go to that well too much, bro. You don't get that lucky that often, right? Like, and even with Queen, like I like Queen as a player. Make no mistake about it. I think that Queen, despite his size, and I always say, like, I know people like with the athletic testing and all of that, they got down on Queen. But there's something to be said when you watch somebody play 5-on-5 basketball and the fact that they don't back down. But to me, I think that the league is going towards you need offense as much as defense, especially from your bigs, right? Everybody doesn't have to be a 20 and 10 guy, but if you're a 15, 16 with 8, 9 rebounds and 2 blocks, like that's better to me than a straightforward 20 and 10 guy, depending on the makeup of your team. So I'd have to take a long, hard consideration on how we plan on building the team out going forward, because I would probably still take Thomas Sorber over Derik
Yeah,
Queen,
yeah,
honestly.
and that's crazy. I wouldn't be mad at Derik Queen. Obviously, if he fell and we picked him, that dude is crazy offensive talent. But
Yeah,
it's more so the
facts.
fit, and then your question about best player available or best fit available. See, if we were top 5, it's to me obviously always best player available up there. When you get to around 12 towards the end of the lottery, I almost feel like a lot of times you can find both, like best fit and best player available, especially the way I'm looking at
Mhm.
this draft and how it's looking. But I mean, if Tre Johnson drops, that's somebody you take automatically. But then, besides the people that I assume are going to be gone by then, I feel like a lot of these players are kind of in the same tier a little bit. To whereas
Mhm.
I don't think there's anybody I'm gonna really be mad about us drafting. I mean, Colin Murray Boyles, I'd be pretty pissed about. But other than that, I don't think it's gonna be anybody that like I'm truly crashing out about.
No, if you want to see a grade A crash, if we draft Colin Murray Boyles, the crash out that I'm gonna have is gonna be bananas, bro.
Yeah, nah, I'm worried about that one. I really am. I mean, he gonna play center. He gonna play center the
Yeah,
whole time. Trust me.
yeah, exactly, bro. And it's like, come on,
He will
man.
play center. But no, I'm
Like, I,
when I
I don't want to draft Kenneth Fareed that has no athleticism. Anyway, let me stop. Go ahead, bro.
that's gonna be the guy we draft. I'm telling you.
I've already prepared myself
I
for it,
feel
bro.
it. I really do. But nah, I mean, back to my pick, Thomas Sorber. The reason I like it so much is because the way I've seen Billy run his bigs. They do a lot of pick and roll, obviously, but there's times where the player will catch it top of the key, and then they have to make a decision to where they either want to, go in for the layup or kick out for a 3-point shooter or something like that. And when I'm watching someone like Thomas Sorber, he seems to be very good at that. And Derik Queen is low key pretty good at that too. But more times than not, he's going to look for that shot. But the thing that makes it different to me is the bully ball that Thomas Sorber plays on both ends, and like like just the fiery passion that he plays with. Like, I mean, a lot of times he gets and ones, and I see him screaming, hype off of that, and that's the stuff that I miss from Joakim Noah. I've said this before,
Yeah.
like that stuff used to get me hype hearing that scream when the same way he would scream every time, even when other people got and ones. So it's just I miss that fiery nature in our center position, and it's been lacking with Vooch. I mean, Vooch gets sassy, but he ain't really like no bully or nothing like that. And I just miss that in Chicago. Like Chicago, as a city, I feel like feeds off of players like that, especially at the center position, someone that's going to be down there doing the dirty work. And to me, when I look at Thomas Sorber, that's exactly what I see from him with the post moves and his mid range. And I mean, I don't need him to be a 3-point shooter, but I can see it happening maybe in his later years, maybe like how Al Horford expanded his game or something like that.
And that's the thing. Not every center needs to be a 3-point shooter. Like I don't care about his 3-point shooting range because his 3-point shooting for Thomas Sorber's 3-point shooting that's not even in the top 8 things I'm looking for that Thomas Sorber can. I don't care about his 3-point shooting. You know, like you said, if you can add it over your game over time, like Taj did. Like Taj became a decent 3-point shooter. Now, you know, he was gone from us by that time, but he became a decent 3-point shooter at times for a couple of years there. But like, I don't care about the 3-point shooting. I don't give a shit about that. I care about as a big who blocks shots, gets steals, plays solid on ball defense, and doesn't foul.
Yeah.
That's the thing I'm looking for from Sorber. That really stands out.
Facts. I think he's like 250, isn't he? I'm pretty sure he's pretty big dude.
Yeah, 255.
255.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, that's crazy. I know he's like a super big lob threat. Like he's not jump out the gym, kind of like Asa Newell. Like Asa Newell gonna get up there and grab that, but he can catch lobs from time to time. Like even when I look at somebody like Mark Williams, I feel like Mark Williams is someone that can catch the lob, but I wouldn't necessarily say that's like something that he really goes to a lot. He more so can get that ball down low and get a shot up, but they can get up there and grab the lob. So I do like seeing that from Sorber too. And obviously the defense is just crazy. So, you know, the pass and the defense, the offense that he can do down low, all that stuff kind of to me just screams like a player that I almost want to say when you redraft, you know, he might be one of those players that you're like, damn, like he how do we miss on this guy? Because, you know, couple that with the foot injury that they have going into the draft too, you can see why he's maybe not being mocked to us. But you know, those are players that sometimes when things work out, though, it's like, damn, like he should have went top 10 or something like that. And that's kind of what I see in Sorber just because of that two-way potential. And for the people that want Colin Murray Boyles, I mean, they basically average the same shit, except Thomas Sorber is like taller, bigger, and can actually, you know,
more of it. It has an actual straightforward position.
Yeah.
Like
so, you know, but I'm like I said, I'm not mad at Fleming. I'm not mad at Carter Bryant. I'm not mad at Asa Newell or Noah Sengwe. There's a lot of good players. Cedric Coward. There's a lot of good players in here that I'm just not gonna be mad at if we get.
Who are the players you want to see the Bulls stay completely away from, other than C and B? Clearly, we both agree on staying away from.
Yeah. Well, a lot of the players I probably say we should stay away from is probably majority going to be guards, and not necessarily just because I think they'll be bad or anything. It's just that when you made that trade for Josh Giddey, I feel like you locked yourself in. Well, you didn't lock yourself into anything. You always do whatever you want. But essentially, you made this decision where like, yo, we're going to invest in this young guard for the future. So when you draft a player like KJ, or you draft a player even like Igor Demon, I feel like, you know, I got a little bit more questions there because now I'm sitting here wondering, how does this player fit next to Josh Giddey? Maybe you want to fit him next to Josh Giddey, but I don't really see how they necessarily fit next to Josh Giddey. And, you know, I'm a big fan of Coby White, so I don't even necessarily want to see that. So, yeah, I can put KJ on there. I can put Igor Demon on there. I can put someone like Neat Clifford because I think he's pretty old. Honestly, I would stay away from someone like him. You know, Khan. I'd stay away from Khan. That's just me personally.
You know why I'd stay away from Khan? Not to say that he's bad, but I feel like you can get 95% of what Khan's going to bring for you by trading back into the lower first round and drafting William McKinley.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Jeremiah Fears, I go back and forth on. I think he might actually be pretty good, so I'm high on him. I wouldn't be necessarily mad at that one. It's just that if AK does draft at like a position of guard, I don't know if I look at him as the guy that's gonna make it work. They would rather go out there and run 4 guards than to say, yo, we need to make other moves to make this draft pick make sense. And when you try to fit 4 players, such like 4 guards in a lineup like that, which Billy has no problem doing, but if you try to do that, you almost diminish the skills that will pop the most if they were playing at their true position. And that's what I hate, because we played so many players out of their true position over the years. And, you know, when they go to these other teams, they start looking perfectly fine. Like Derik Jones Jr., everybody go to that. He don't play center. And all of a sudden he was a big part of, the Clippers when he was playing on the wing. So it's stuff like that. And, players like DJJ and Caruso and stuff, they fight through whatever position they're going to play in. But to capitalize on like these players' talents and stuff, that's why I'm like, it's almost like at 12, just go with, I think you can find fit and best talent. Like, I think Thomas Sorber is someone that you can find that is the best fit and the best talent probably there. Or if you go with a Derik Queen or something like that, or if you go with Asa Newell, that fits somebody. I would definitely stay away from Jace Richardson. I think bro is too short. He seemed more like a bench guard. But I'm just worried about that. Like, we got Josh Giddey and Coby. I'm cool with the wing and some wings and some bigs. I wouldn't be mad if you go that direction.
Yeah, Jace is a player that, like, I like Jace, make no mistake about it, but not for where this team is. Like, and the problem is that he's a shooting guard that's 6 foot, 178 pounds in the league where we're consistently seeing shooting guards 200, 205. It's going to be difficult for him on the defensive side of the ball, bro.
He might be a bucket off the bench, though.
He could be a bucket off the bench, but the problem is that you're talking about drafting somebody who's probably upside as a bucket off the bench in the top 10. Some people are talking about. It's like,
yeah. I'm scared of stuff like that, man. I really am. Like I said, if we're going to trade Caruso and get someone like Josh Giddey who played well this last season, I don't see why would we get another guard, to put next to Josh Giddey. And even so, we already are worried about defensive fit with Josh Giddey and Coby. So if you're telling me that we're drafting Jace to be our future 2 or whatever, like, how does that defensive look? How is that looking defensively now? So it really, like, those picks wouldn't make sense. Like I said, unless it's a crazy guard that drops like a Tre Johnson, I'm not about to, sit here and try to pick a guard. Really, there's too many good wings and bigs that you can get instead. I feel like.
AD,
that's just me
listen,
personally.
I don't know if you meant to type that in your Pornhub window. You looking for bigger packages? I don't know if this is the place. Like, we're not doing that. We don't do that here. No, but this first part, I don't necessarily know if that's true. To be honest with you, I think that there's a possibility that you could get more back for Io, mainly because of his contract's only $7 million, which means that his max isn't going to be nearly as much as Io DeSumu's is. It's easier for teams to match that. Like, most teams have a player probably on the back end. For example, we got Javon Carter, who makes about the same as Io DeSumu, to where then the Bulls can focus on getting draft picks back because it's not going to take much to match the salary. So I wouldn't assume that you can get a bigger trade package back for Coby in all scenarios. It just depends.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Look, I don't even like thinking of trading either one of them. I'm not gonna lie.
I talk about it because I do realize that it is a possibility. And it could happen, but I hope that they. I hope that they don't. That's not the situation they get thrust upon, right? I hope that they can bring them back, add a center to this team. We can ride out and see what we got in them, man.
Yeah, I'm cool off of it with Kuminga. I know people like Kuminga, but I'm telling you, I'm cool off of that. I think Coby probably my favorite player out of the two, but some it might hurt a little bit more if it's Io though. I mean, dude's from Chicago, and then on top of that, he plays defense, and then it might hurt a little bit more because I can literally see Io fit in every single iteration of the future,
and he has already.
Of any team.
Still, even as much as last season, all of our best lineups included Io DeSumu playing like 3 different positions because that's what he can do. He can play the 1, 2, or the 3. I know he can defend some 4s, but I don't want to see him playing the 4. Billy Donovan, close your ears, brother.
Yeah. So. Yeah, he's already writing that down, man.
He said, but any last thoughts, Vaughn, before we get up out of here, brother?
Don't pick CMB.
Please,
and I think for the most part, I'm gonna be cool and be happy with it. But please, if Thomas Sorber's on the board, hey, I'm willing to down that hill. We need to draft Thomas Sorber. That's how I feel.
Is there any, and not necessarily at 12, is there any player in this draft that people aren't really talking about that you think actually could be a really good move for the Bulls? Whether it's them trading back into the first, second round, just any player that isn't getting really a lot of talk that you wouldn't mind seeing on the Bulls.
Danny Wolf is someone that's intriguing over time, even though I don't really think, he'd be the best fit for us. And I don't think I'd take him at 12. But Danny Wolf just has skill sets that you can't teach for real from a big position. Another one is probably Maxime Reynaud, I believe is how you pronounce his name. Real solid player.
Yeah, Maxime Renaud. Yep.
Yeah, and then I got a couple in the second round that I would like. I like Chaz Lanier as a shooter. I think he had one of the highest shooting percentages in the combine. And then I also like what's his name? Let me see. Oh, Milos Uzan from Houston. He's a guard, but I'm assuming if they get some of these guards out of here and then bring in another younger guard or something that can get some time in the G League. But I do like all those players. So. And I've heard about Hugo Gonzalez too. I've heard about him a lot too, so I wouldn't be mad at that either.
Yeah, I've definitely covered Hugo Gonzalez. By the way, who said that? Coffee and Ball. I have a one of my draft breakdowns covering Hugo Gonzalez when I talk about his tape and everything. The one for me that I think, and even if we do draft another big, Johnny Broome in the second round, I think could be a great big bench big for you. Tough, gets block shots, gets rebounds, can pass. I think that he can be a really good bench player for you. He's one that I like, and I'm starting to come around to Ryan Kalkbrenner, which is a weird name, and I'm gonna have my fun if we draft him. I'm starting to come around to him as well. Again, kind of just more so solidifying your bench big rotation. I think that these guys have some promise, but there's quite a bit of players in the second round that actually kind of entice me. So we'll see.
Definitely. As it's always worrisome to pick a big in the second round. I'm scarred after our last big that we picked in the second round. But other than that, they just gotta make sure they. You said what did you say?
Adama?
No, one dude that they sent back overseas. that was playing.
That wasn't last
Billy.
Yeah, you talking about
yeah.
What was his name? Why am I forgetting his name now?
We already done forgot his name. But yeah,
Simonovic.
Simonovic. Yeah, if you pick a big in the second round, man, they better make sure they develop them, man. Put them on the court. Like, let's see what they got. I don't want to do that same Simonovic routine that we did. We don't need that.
That's a fact.
Yeah,
well, we want to thank y'all for tuning in, man. Make sure you guys are following us at Bulls Central Pod. You can check Vaughn out over at Hoops Legion. They killing it over there, man. Make sure y'all check them out over there. We appreciate y'all for tuning in. I'll catch y'all bright and early tomorrow morning for the mailbag, man. Love you guys. Go Bulls. See red, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.